Death is a natural part of life, but we often find ourselves paralyzed by what to do when someone is grieving. Here are 10 ideas. We recently lost a beloved family member, and Jimmy and I were so moved by some of the thoughtful gifts. So let's talk about some of them. You really cannot go wrong with a book on grieving. Now, you want to be sure it's a book you believe in, that perhaps someone has given you or you've given to others. The best book I've ever given was called After Loss. And I looked it up recently on Amazon to see if it was still a popular book, and it is. Not only that, it has become a program for grieving people. Do a little search through your own library or even ask someone, what's the best book they ever got in their loss? And that would be something to pass along. Some people are uncomfortable sending flowers for the funeral. So another idea is to send a perennial plant, shrub, or tree. But don't stop there, because grieving people often can't take the next step of planting. So if you do something like this and give a perennial plant, bring with you the potting soil and the pot and plant it right there with them or for them. You can bring it already potted, but when you bring it to do for them and with them, you're also able to check in on them and see how they're really doing. Something I did for my husband was take a photo and frame it and put it in the house. And you could do that for almost anyone. And here's how easy that is. Many people have photos of their loved ones on their Facebook page or on some sort of social media. You can save that photo, send it off to a photo center like Walgreens or Walmart, have it printed off, and while you're there, pick up a frame it, and take it to your grieving friend or loved one. They will greatly appreciate it. Another idea is a digital photo frame filled with pictures of happier times. You can deliver that pre-loaded for them and then show them how they can load more photos. Some frames also come with an audio function, and this is tricky, but if they are missing the sound of their loved one's voice, you can load that on there for them, and it adds a little something special to their day. Here's an idea for those of you like me who need a job. You can show up with thank you notes, stamps, and a pen. You can sit down with your loved one and just start writing down in the cards whatever they want to say. If you're really good at this, you can help them phrase it beautifully. They don't have to be long, they can be short, but they are meaningful both to the person who wants to thank people and the person who receives the card. If you just bring the cards, they may never put a stamp on it. If you just bring the cards and the stamps, they may never pick up the pen to write it. Grief is tricky. People often feel helpless and hopeless. If you show up with these items, you can take care of that for them in the kindest way possible. Something a family member did for Jimmy and me was drop off a full, warm meal. And it wasn't just a little meal. It was the appetizer, the meat, the sides, and a little dessert. We loved it because it came in a foil dish that we could put right into the oven. And you probably know what I mean. You can use them usually around Thanksgiving, and you put the turkey in there and you stick it in the oven, and then when you're done, you just throw the whole thing out. That's what you want to do, because what you don't want the recipient to have to do is return a dish to you. They just may not be able to do that right away, and you don't want to have to call and say, hey, could I get that dish back? So a foil dish solves both the problem of washing and returning. Restaurant gift cards are fine. They're actually a very thoughtful gift. But something I want you to think about is that grieving people often aren't ready to go into public. And if the grieving person is a widow or widower, they are now going into public alone, and they may not want to do that for a very long time. A better idea may be to DoorDash a meal to them, or any number one of these delivery services. You can let them choose the restaurant, or you may know their favorite restaurant. You can order something you may have seen them order before, and just have it delivered right to the door, and ding dong, a hot meal from a loving person and a favorite eatery. If your love language, like mine, is acts of service, a really great thing you can do is offer to clean for the grieving. Now, there's a trick to this. It never works to just call and say, could I come over and clean for you? Or call me if you want me to clean for you. What you need to do is show up and say, would you rather I vacuum or clean your bathroom? That way you're giving them a choice. You're also checking on them by making a personal visit. And you're doing an essential thing they just may not have the energy to do. For outdoorsy people or people who love to garden, you might consider a memorial garden stone. We received one of those and I love it. Another idea is a memorial wind chime. And what's great about this wind chime, besides the sound it makes, is this little saying at the bottom: let every breeze sing a song of remembrance. And then it has the deceased name and the years of their life and death. It's just a beautiful, audible way to remind the bereaved of the deceased. And this last idea is one of my favorites. You know how people gather around at visitation and funerals and they tell stories? Well, often you don't even know that story and you loved hearing it. But in the process of grieving, you might have forgotten the details. If you have a great story about someone who has recently died, write it out in a card or a letter and send it to the bereaved. Bonus, if you have a photo from that actual event or that great time. You cannot go wrong with the memory of the deceased. And your gift may just create a new memory for those who grieve.